Hello everybody, good morning to you again. Now let's see one more ADAS feature, automatic emergency braking. Automatic emergency braking can be considered as an elder brother of forward collision warning because forward collision warning only warns you, but automatic emergency braking takes a very proactive action in mitigating the collision. Now let's see this particular ADAS feature in elaborate manner. Automatic emergency braking is a safety system that can identify when a possible collision is about to occur and responds when autonomously activating the brake to slow the vehicle prior to the impact or bring it to a stop to avoid a collision. So, this automatic emergency braking, which I will be addressing as AEB henceforth, is a technology which will drastically reduce the velocity of the vehicle, or if possible it can even bring the vehicle to a stop if the computer or the ECU detects that a particular collision is imminent. If the computer detects that collision is imminent or inevitable, then automatic emergency braking can go to the extent of stopping the vehicle, provided there is sufficient time and distance. And this technology commonly uses radar, cameras, or LiDAR to identify the threatening situations. So this uses both a fusion of radar, camera, or LiDAR. Of course, LiDAR is not exactly a very mature technology. It is used by only some OEMs like Wamo. Wamo is not exactly OEM, but still Wamo is one particular company which is using LiDAR extensively. But most of the companies which implement this automatic emergency braking, they use radar and camera. And the slower the vehicle is traveling, the more likely it is that automatic emergency braking can bring it to a stop or to prevent a collision. Now, this is common sense. Right? The slower the vehicle, the probability of the vehicle coming to a stop to avoid a collision is higher. If automatic emergency braking detects that the distance to the proceeding or stationary vehicle is becoming critically short at a vehicle speed above 30 km per hour, it prepares the braking system for potentially emergency braking. So above 30 km per hour, if the vehicle is detects that it is coming closer to a stationary vehicle and the closeness is becoming critical, then it prepares the braking system for potential emergency braking. If the driver does not react to hazardous situation, the system warns the driver via audible or visual signal followed by a short but noticeable brake jerk. Now here various permutations and combinations are there. Some OEMs they use audible, some OEMs they use visual, some OEMs use a noticeable brake jerk, some OEMs they even tighten and loosen the seat belt at a very high frequency, the point at a high frequency to make the driver alert. So if at all driver is looking back and talking to somebody sitting in a passenger seat, so if any of the above warnings happen, then driver can become alert and immediately focus his attention onto the road in front of him. That's the very point. This system then initiates partial braking to reduce the speed and give the driver valuable time to react. Now as soon as the driver presses the brake pedal, this system provides braking support. Okay, suppose, I mean, what is exactly meaning of this braking support? Suppose the vehicle driver he slams the brake, then this system further adds additional pressure onto the brake pedal to make sure brake happens even more effectively. And to do this, the system continuously calculates the degree of vehicle deceleration required to avoid the collision. If the system detects that driver has failed to apply sufficient brake force, it increases the braking pressure to required level so that the driver can attempt to bring the vehicle to a standstill before a collision occurs. Okay, understand this sentence very carefully. It increases the braking pressure to the required level so that the driver can attempt to bring the vehicle to a standstill before the collision occurs. If the driver fails to react to the immediate risk of collision, now what this is saying is, despite the warnings, it may be tactile or haptic or audio or visual warning, if the driver fails to take a proactive action, then emergency braking determines determines that rear end collision is inevitable, and it can automatically initiate full braking. That means, like a robo, it itself brakes the vehicle. It takes fullest responsibility in stopping the vehicle. As a result, the vehicle is traveling at a significantly reduced speed when the collision occurs, reducing the severity of the crash for the passengers of both vehicles. Sometimes what happens is, despite the best efforts of the automatic emergency braking, the vehicle may collide. But the advantage is, when the collision happens, because the velocity of the vehicle has drastically reduced, the severity of the collision, it drastically comes down. So without AEB, there may be fatality, but with the AEB, the driver may survive only with some minimum injuries. Okay, so one salient feature of this automotive emergency braking is, it drastically reduces the collision severity. Now let's see this particular video. I'm 100% sure this video is going to give you a good idea what is meant by automotive emergency braking.
Hi, I'm Andy Christensen, Senior Manager at the Nissan Technical Center North America. Today I'm here to talk to you about automatic emergency braking. Automatic emergency braking is a feature that only activates in forward emergency collision situations. Automatic emergency braking is active every time you start the vehicle, and unless you see a warning message, the system is operational. This intelligent system uses a radar mounted on the front of the vehicle to detect the speed and distance of the car directly in front of you. The system is able to calculate if there's about to be a rear-end collision with that vehicle. The system first alerts the driver with a visual and audible warning to encourage them to hit the brakes. If the driver doesn't respond with hard enough braking, the system has the ability to apply even harder braking to potentially avoid a collision or at least mitigate the damage during a collision. Some vehicles are equipped with automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection. The system is able to alert the driver of a potential collision with a pedestrian crossing in front of the vehicle in urban or city environments. When a pedestrian is detected, the system provides visual and audible warnings to the driver. If the driver doesn't respond, the system is able to apply braking to help avoid or mitigate a collision. Keep in mind, this is a driver assist technology. The driver should never rely on the system to brake for them in normal driving situations. Because the system only activates in emergency situations, similar to your airbags, you may never experience the system in normal everyday driving. If you have a vehicle equipped with forward emergency braking, then you already have automatic emergency braking. The systems are identical. For more information, please review your model-specific owner's manual regarding system operation and limitations. Automatic emergency braking is a driver assistance technology and is just another way Nissan Intelligent Mobility brings you a more confident driving experience.
Automatic emergency braking. Automatic emergency braking is a feature that allows for automatic braking on sensing an imminent crash. It reduces risk of injury in unavoidable situations. AEB can be activated or deactivated from the infotainment system. The system checks the time to collision with the preceding or stationary vehicle and prepares the braking system for a potential emergency. If the driver does not react to the hazardous situation, the system warns the driver by acoustic and visual warning. If the driver fails to react to the immediate risk of collision, AEB system automatically initiates full braking. If you are driving at a speed of 40 km per hour, the AEB system will bring the vehicle to a standstill. However, if your vehicle speed is beyond 40 km per hour, driver intervention is required along with AEB to bring the car to a halt.
Okay, so I hope both these videos gave you a very clear-cut idea what exactly this automatic emergency braking is. Now let's see what this general ADAS architecture, which we have been seeing for all the various ADAS functionalities. The first is, okay, let me switch on my pen. First is the environment. What is the environment in which this automatic emergency braking comes into picture? The front side of the vehicle. So automatic emergency can come into implementation only when the vehicle is about to collide something in the front. This will not help if somebody is colliding you from behind. If somebody is colliding you from behind, this will not be of any help. So the environment in which this particular functionality is advantageous or helpful is only on the front side of the vehicle. Be very clear about it. And next is sensor layer. Sensor layer, as I said, camera and radar. Now in this video I even mentioned lidar, but I did not actually add it here because lidar is still in the process of maturity. It is not exactly a very mature technology. Even in technology is proven, it is very expensive, so only very selected cars are using lidar technology. That's the reason I mentioned only camera plus radar. But as of now, many OEMs are using these two technologies which are serving the purpose. Next is the perception layer. So what all is it perceiving? The perceiving is the vehicle perceives object, it next perceives the speed, the distance, the direction measurement. It perceives the object, then it perceives the relative speed. For example, if the vehicle in front of you drastically comes to a stop, then with relative to your vehicle, the ego vehicle speed, the relative velocity is calculated or relative speed is calculated, and then also the distance is judged, and based on that the rate of deceleration is calculated, and based on the rate of deceleration the required force is also calculated. Now what is the decision making layer? Now it is in this decision making layer the automatic emergency braking functionality takes a decision whether to alert the driver or not. If the AEB comes to the conclusion that the vehicle collision is avoidable, completely avoidable, there's no need to panic, then it won't inform the driver, it won't warn the driver. But if it judges that collision is unavoidable, inevitable, then it will immediately decide to alert the driver in various ways. I already told you what are the various ways in which the vehicle can alert the driver. Now what exactly is this actuation layer? It is in this actuation layer that vehicle informs or warns the driver through audio video warning. It can be emergency brake alert, tactile warnings like sudden brake jerk, and also haptic warnings like suddenly tightening the seat belt and losing the speed belt at a very high frequency. Alternatively, it will tighten and loosen. That's the way it will bring the it will force the driver to pay attention to the road. Okay, so this is the gist of the automatic emergency braking. Thank you.